If you can, imagine this. You're in a futuristic world where aliens have come to Earth and taken it over, and now they're keeping humans captive. For their entertainment, aliens are making you and your friends compete in their version of The Voice. While you're being forced to sing against your will, you're being watched in a giant stadium or stage, which gives the series' title its meaning. The stakes of the show being that if you happen to lose against your opponent, even just by 1 or 2 points, then you're sentenced to death on the spot. Rounds exist, and if you're lucky enough to win yours, then you go up against whoever won the last, like boxing or fighting brackets. You grew up and lived in constant fear for not only yourself, but others around you, because in the blink of an eye, anything and everything that you love can be taken away from you with no mercy. Alien Stage, an animated series on YouTube led by Vivianos in collaboration with co-director QMeg and produced by Studio Lego, is exactly that. And in the last few months, has taken over a good chunk of the internet, especially queer people who love to read about queer yearning. And around April of last year, my best friend recommended this series to me when the last piece of Alien Stage media that had been posted was round 6. Since then, it took me another 6 months to get into it, where we both sat down for about an hour, her pausing every minute or so to explain what on earth was going on. At the time, I didn't really enjoy the media to its fullest because I found it annoying that you needed outside explanations to be able to fully understand the series. I wish that I could have had a full guide at the time, a sort of master doc explaining every single round and character and relationship, so that I could get into it, not 6 months later, because honestly, part of this was because I didn't know where to start with it. This video essay is meant to be this master doc, and I'm sure that the length of it really reflects that. I'm going to hope that the chapters worked in this video, but I'm not trusting YouTube. So there's going to be timestamps in the description of this video so that you can get a better look of what I'm going to be covering. Since I want this to be available for not only fans of the series, but people who haven't heard of it or watched it yet, I'm going to keep this spoiler-free, as in deaths and other important plot points won't be hinted at or anything until right when they're revealed to the audience. For visuals, I'm going to try my best to show clips and images from the rounds and videos as they happen, but because I know I'm going to eventually run out of footage to show, since I talk about some specific things for a while. Everything in this series has subtext, guys. You'll understand once I get into it. I'm going to be rotating between fan art, fan reactions, and any other related visuals that I can find. On a similar note, since I'm going to be covering the songs in this series, I'll have the one that I'm currently talking about playing in the background. Same thing goes with the songs that are being sung in each round. But once I start running out of songs, they'll be replaced by songs that generally remind me of Alien Stage. I also want to note that there are things here that I don't cover, either because I thought that they were unimportant, repetitive, or kind of irrelevant to what I was talking about, and mostly because I want anyone who watches this to be able to still have media to consume after this video, if this is your introduction to Alien Stage, or if you just want to go deeper with it. I'm going to be covering every round, plus Wiege and Karma. Vega. I feel like I should say it like that. Vega. Vega. Plus Vega and Karma. No, that just sounds stupid. I'm not going to do that. But any videos between those, like All In or anything else, I don't mention that much or at all. For the songs, I went through I think almost all of them, but things like covers aren't mentioned, and again, there might be some that I ended up letting slip through the cracks. I also went through the comics, but when I do, I only bring up ones that I thought were important and had relevant details. Before we get into anything important, I thought it'd be helpful to do a character introduction or mini analysis so that you're not confused, because I got very easily confused with all the characters, even though there aren't many. So I'll just be giving a basic rundown description of things that set them apart from one another, so that it's easy to follow along. Mizzy is who we'll call our protagonist of the story, with the first present-day clip that we see of her being at the age of 22. Mizzy can easily be recognized by her bright, mostly pink hair and gold eyes. She's described by BB nose. Baby no, buddy. Okay. She's described by Vivianos herself as one of the most outgoing out of all of the main cast, always carrying a positive attitude. Her personality comes at a price, however, because she's almost unable to hide or mask her true emotions, something that is crucial to not only survive, but not go completely insane in a world like Alien Stage. Fans' opinions of Mizzy have started to sway, however, as in a comic made by Vivianos recently, it was shown that the good parts of Mizzy's personality was mostly all an act. Suwa is introduced in the first round or episode of Alien Stage alongside Mizzy, characterized by her dark blue hair and black eyes. Suwa is described as one of the more subtle characters throughout the series, as she's rarely seen interacting with anyone else other than Mizzy. Suwa is seen as very cold and distant on the outside, only warming up for Mizzy. But despite her hard exterior, she is actually a very delicate person and is fairly easy to upset. Like Suwa, Ivan has dark hair. The only difference is his being black, his eyes matching the theme. Ivan, also like Suwa, is a pretty reserved person, but in a different way. When he was younger, and even now, most people would consider Ivan to be quiet and a bit off-putting, due to the fact that he was raised in poverty and not knowing social cues very well. As he grew up, Ivan began to put more effort into being perceived as normal, doing things like practicing a smile in the reflection of ponds. With gray hair and teal eyes, Till is almost the complete opposite of Ivan, visually and personality-wise. In a now-deleted tweet, Vivino said that she considers Till to be the most sensitive and timid among all of the main cast and participants. Despite this, during Alien Stage, Till had a sort of rebellious streak, for him at least, where he sang over one of his opponents during a round, something that's obviously against the rules, to win. In my opinion, Hyuna is one of the most confident out of all of the main characters. With her brown hair, we're continuing the streak of dark hair, but her grays keep some lightness in her character design. Hyuna is very laid back, acting playful even in the most dangerous of situations. Despite this, however, she is known to have a softer side, especially when dealing with elements of her past. Luca shows up pretty early in this series, but we don't really get to know much of his backstory, character, or relevance until one of the final episodes. Luca's silhouette is quite blinding, with most of his character design being some shades of white or light yellow. While most of the aliens visibly do their equivalent of swooning over him, he is probably the most openly and obviously ruthless person in the main cast, manipulating Mizzy and Till during their rounds singing together. Despite his asshole of an exterior, however, throughout Hyuna's memories, we get to see much more of a softer side of him, it being implied that offstage, he really does love the ones close to him, but just doesn't always do a very great job at expressing it. This first round basically gives the viewer all of the background information and world building that they would need to continue and understand the rest of the series. Kind of more like a prologue than in episode 1. Our introduction to Alien Stage opens with a montage of Mizzy and Suwa growing up together in the current alien world. The extent of their fabricated childhood is honestly sickening because of the fact that they grew up in an act garden. Flash forward to them in the present day, singing together or rather against each other in the first round of Alien Stage. Before we get to see the end of this round, however, we get a short backstory voiceover from our protagonist, Mizzy. She explains how before this all happened, this being Alien Stage, everyone on Earth believed that everything and all of their problems that they couldn't solve themselves could be solved by God, and that their Earth was the most important thing in the world. Beyond the sky was where the gods lived, they thought. But from the moment that humans decided to leave Earth and explore beyond, i.e. the universe, space, etc., they forgot entirely about the concept of God and religion. But Mizzy is only human. Having or believing in a religion is only human. And since their world's God is no longer relevant, she believes that Suwa is her God, her universe. That line definitely won't come back to haunt us later. Flashback to the present with Mizzy and Suwa competing against each other. They seem to be enjoying it, looking into each other's eyes lovingly and all, until blood splatters against Mizzy's face. Mizzy won, Suwa lost. Which means Suwa's dead. Her collar is placed back on her neck, which immediately turns bright red. At the end, we see the competition brackets for this entire series, inherently finding out that the rounds are only going to keep going until we reach the best or final contestant. Till enters the stage for his round against some rando. He starts pretty calm and collected, despite the very obvious stakes at hand, established in the last round, all up until he starts thinking of Mizzy, and then we get a flashback. We see Till probably sneaking out from somewhere to see or rather watch Mizzy and Suwa. He can be seen with bruises all over him, and is obviously, notably, watching them by himself. One could assume that he was maybe being bullied in Alien Stage or in Act Garden, but we get more context in the next flashback sequence. Till bashing himself against a wall repeatedly. He was the one who inflicted this pain on himself. And another one of him hiding the flower crown that he just saw Suwa crowning Mizzy with in one of the last flashback scenes. With Till being very obviously handcuffed or restrained, a figure, who, if we do a bit of digging, find out is his owner, looking over him, which is obviously what's making him hide the broken flower crown in the first place. We get a flash of him covered in blood and more bruises, now with an added mouth restraint, like he was beaten up either by himself or someone else and then discarded against the wall. Back to the present, right as Acorn tries to get get some lines in before he gets absolutely devoured by Till. He smashes his guitar, and we're now able to see what it's composed of. Not really that important in my opinion, though the scene itself is pretty cool. It then flashes to an audience of aliens who don't seem very happy that Till has just broken what honestly in the current day world looks like what would be a very expensive guitar. Oh, and probably the fact that they didn't even get the chance to hear the opponent sing, but nah. In this economy, I don't think so. But despite all this, the aliens decide that it's Till that won. Obviously so, because the other contestant didn't even get a chance to say a fucking word. We then get a cut to Till again. Against the wall, tied up with one of his restraints, stopping him from speaking. Blood dripping down from his scalp and forehead. Which then cuts to Mizzy glancing over at him, and another character who remains faceless until we zoom in on— oh my god, it's Ivan! Round 3 starts with, again, backstory of another one of our main characters. Ivan grew up with the rest of the cast, basically living in a simulation in an act garden. We open with Ivan singing in his dedicated round against another complete stranger. I promise, they do sing against actual important people, I swear. Our first flashback with Ivan is with him when he was far younger, probably too young to even have formed a consciousness, which could explain why he seems so unbothered that he's currently being dangled off the edge of a cliff by an alien that's almost 10 times his current height. Bro is the final boss of nonchalance. Our next scene is him in this world's version of an adoption center, but with far more, possible child health concerns. Surrounded by other children who have yet to be chosen. Finally, he does get chosen and is taken by a noticeably rich family. Translation is owners have a lot of money! We get a few seconds of Ivan in an act garden again, obviously practicing singing with the other kids there. But the next scene keeps his deadpan face, flashing to their recess, where Ivan almost voluntarily decides to stay alone, watching the other kids have fun instead of trying to join in. We got our first major parallel here. Don't worry, you'll be seeing a lot of these in this series. Where for a split second, Mizzy and Sua's flower crown flashes across the screen, which is then followed by Till, running by Ivan, who he decides to follow. We return to the present for a second, with Ivan giving his opponent some time to sing for himself, before going back to where exactly Ivan had followed Till to, some sort of small field that he and Mizzy seemed to be trapped in, as they both had gotten cornered by some sort of alien monster. Mizzy was too stunned to speak, but we see as Till still attempts to try and fight back, while Ivan just stands there and watches. Another flash back to the present for a second of more of Ivan's beautiful singing, then we continue our flashback, where Ivan is observing Till, who is locked up in a straitjacket. Again, very obviously restrained, which he decided to free him from. This is followed up by them happy together, running around in what seems to be a field with a meteor shower above them. Back to the present where we took off from the last round. Till has finally woken up, just in time to see how Ivan did in his round. Back to baby Ivan and Till's frolicking in the field. Suddenly, for no reason that Ivan can think of, Till lets go of Ivan's hand. He realizes quickly that Till turned to return to the literal prison that they live in because he wants to go back to Mizzy rather than stay with him. The next time it cuts back to Ivan, he's still singing, but falling stars can be noticed in the background. Fuck, another parallel, really? And right after that too? Jesus Christ. Finally, we find out that Ivan has won the round. The last that we get of this round is a flash of one of our next main characters, Luca. And I guess round 4 must have just featured a bunch of NPCs again, because we've skipped straight to round 5. Oh, we're actually gonna find out what happened in round 5? Okay, sweet. We open the round with a brief explanation. Luca had sung against another unnamed NPC in round 4 and has, obviously won the round. Then, we get a shot of who's going to be singing in this round. Mizzy versus Luca. Now we're actually getting to relevant people! Woohoo! As Luca starts singing, it is very obvious that he's trying to taunt Mizzy in some way, even just from his body language, but also from his lyrics. Mizzy then tentatively starts adding her own lyrics in, her words being very obviously in response to Luca's. We then get a beautiful shot of Luca singing with his arm reached out to signify his passion. The moonlight creating the perfect atmosphere behind him and— oh my god, it's another parallel! Shoot me! Yeah, it honestly just keeps on getting more painful from here. Luca is not magically turning into Sua, but rather what we're seeing is all from Mizzy's point of view. The way that Luca is acting, moving, singing, and even down to his facial expressions all remind her of Sua. Because he's doing it on purpose. He wants to throw her off so that he has a better chance of winning. Weaken the competition. Mizzy attempts to fight back, but Luca only restrains her. We start getting a lot at the same time here, with the visuals moving back and forth between what Mizzy is seeing and the alien crowd, who are all very obviously in love with Luca's stage presence, while Mizzy is too overwhelmed with emotion to do anything else but watch. her clearest memories of Sua coming back to haunt her. She's then snapped back to the present, her anger returned, which translates to her lashing out at Luca, her goal, obviously, to try and beat him to death, until eventually, she's practically torn off of him. The crowd all watch in shock, only leaving the viewer to assume that something like this has never happened before. But despite how badly of a beating that Mizzy had the chance to deliver before she got dragged away from him, Luca looks up at her with a maddening smirk. We get flashes of the rest of the main characters' reactions, like Till. Back to the stage, many alien and human guards are escorting Mizzy. The only thing making Luca's smile drop is when he sees a now fairly new character, Hyuna. With this round coming to an end, instead of getting the nice little conclusion that every other round ended with, we're shown an error screen, saying that this round basically malfunctioned because Mizzy was now missing, before it cuts to black. At this point, our only contestants or main characters that are currently alive for the next rounds are Ivan, Till, and Mizzy, after being saved by Hyuna, but technically, she no longer counts as a participant. With the context that we have now, whoever wins this next round is going to be facing Luca in the final round of Alien Stage. And in a fun twist of events, this round is Ivan versus Till. I'm sure nothing bad will happen here. Some context before we get into this round, if you couldn't already catch on by now. Ivan is in love with Till, and while Till still loves and appreciates him, no homo. Till is in love with Mizzy, but Mizzy is in love with Sua. And Sua is in love with Mizzy. Or I guess, was. I don't even know how you would even begin to describe this love triangle, square. I really don't know. I just spent a long time looking it up and settled on asymmetrical love quadrangle. I didn't even know that the word quadrangle fucking existed until this very moment. Back to this round. Because Mizzy has seemingly just gone missing, we know what happened to her, but shh. Till just assumes the worst. Can't blame him, to be honest. If I lived in this world, I would probably do the same. And concludes that Mizzy is dead, which leaves him starting this round in an already dampened mood. We start this round off with Till before we're pelted into a flashback, this one being more recent than the ones that we're usually given, most of the time from their childhood. It takes place right after Mizzy's performance with Luca, just moments after Mizzy's assumed disappearance and death. Till is being forced to sing for a group of aliens. This may seem like some unimportant karaoke, but if you take a closer look, the lyrics that are being shown on the screen are those of the song that Sua and Mizzy sang together in round 1. Till refuses to sing the song because of how obviously important it is to Mizzy and Sua, which leaves the aliens annoyed. In response to his defiance, the aliens push his face up against one of the missing posters for Mizzy, hoping that it would be what got him to sing, but it only had the opposite effect, causing him to lash out and swing for the alien in his closest reach. After a bit more singing, we're brought back to another flashback, this one from Till's childhood, where he's being auctioned or sold off for adoption, a 50% off sticker to his right because of the bruised condition that he's being sold in. Back to the present, Ivan now starts to sing as well. As he continues, we get a flashback to him and Till, the two of them getting into a fight over him, accidentally or not, stepping on— oh my god, it's another one! Oh no. Oh no. You see, I'm watching these summary videos made by another channel because I can't make inferences for my life, and he just mentioned how Mizzy and Sua's flower crowns is a metaphor for love. Sua is giving Mizzy her love, and then Till tries to take it away, but mismanages it, like his split feelings for Ivan and Mizzy. And then Ivan is crushing it, or stepping on it, representing his resentment towards Till's feelings for Mizzy, wanting to be able to keep Till's love for himself. Oh my god, that makes so much more sense now! Now, I could go through what each of these flashbacks probably mean and what's going on in them, but there is far too much yearning for me to even try and begin to attempt to find the words to describe it. So, back to present day. Till and Ivan continue singing together until Till just doesn't. And Ivan notices this almost instantly, with Ivan obviously knowing the stakes of this competition. He drops his mic and— oh my god, it finally happened! Oh? Never mind, I forgot about the whole, asymmetrical love quadrangle thing. Yeah, this isn't reciprocated. Ivan quickly follows up this loving act by doing something completely in the opposite nature, and starts choking Till. As he's doing so, he glances behind him at both of their current scores, and slowly but surely, we see Till start to surrender to his death. Yeah, the series ruins numbers for you too. Don't you just love it here? With his assumption of Mizzy being dead as well. He has nothing to live for after all. But before Ivan can finish him off, he gets shot in the neck. It is now, in Ivan's death, that he can fully understand what he was doing in the first place. He knew about what just happened with Mizzy, and had the same assumption as Till. Mizzy was dead. He now had the knowledge that if a contestant tried to disrupt the nature of Alien Stage, they would be killed. He never actually wanted to kill Till. He just wanted to cause enough of a scene with him to get himself killed, so that Till would have the chance of continuing on and winning Alien Stage once and for all. God, can these people ever be casual about anything? The round opens with Luca and Till as they're the final and only contestants left. The two of them go back and forth between singing, sharing lyrics that often end up defying gravity, or mirroring each other, definitely done intentionally. Before it cuts to the crowd for a bit, we get a glimpse of Mizzy and Hyuna, who are watching the performance from behind the stage. As the camera focuses more and more on Till, Mizzy watches in horror, feeling Till's emotion even through the screen. Obviously and understandably fearing for his life, worried that the same thing that... I'm gonna kill myself, bro. Worried that the same thing was going to happen to him that did to Sua in her round. Back to Till and Luca on stage, who are really starting to amp up this duet, with the both of them pulling... Gonna start pulling out some nails with the back of the hammer if she doesn't. Shut the fuck up! With both of them pulling out an instrument to add to their alternating vocals. With Mizzy's anxiety getting worse and worse, her first instinct is to try and go up to the stage. And despite Hyuna trying to stop her, she makes a break for it. Speaking of, we get a return back to the stage for a couple seconds, the demeanor of Till and Luca drastically changing, with the both of them seeming quite distant from the present, like they're both starting to run on steam. Willing to do anything to get up on stage, Mizzy sneaks past a guard, using a smoke bomb diversion to escape from backstage. Things start to move quicker, with the footage cutting back and forth between Hyuna trying to follow through with a plan for the resistance, and Luca and Till on stage, with Luca starting to pull some of the same tricks that he did with Mizzy, mimicking the mannerisms of past people in his life. Ivan. To throw him off and make him lose his focus. What shocks me is how fast all the rounds go, because technically each time that Luca has done this, it hasn't even been a full 24 hours since these people have died right in front of their eyes in the most brutal way possible. Crazy to me. Till tries to resist it, but it only ends up having the opposite effect, his reaction amusing Luca further. Until finally, we're shown who has won this round, with Luca getting first place, which leaves Till in second. With Hyuna still working to unlock the door that she needs, and Till knowing his fate, he almost completely stops fighting back, accepting what he knows is about to come. And as if it wasn't already enough, Luca decides to twist the knife and surround Till with just pure despair and agony. Bro is seriously an X Games level taunter, holy sh. As Till's final lines come to an end, he spots Mizzy, who finally made it to the crowd. Mizzy, at this point, is practically begging for Till to do anything. She doesn't want him to have the same fate as the other cast members, losing their lives before they even had a chance to live it. In an attempt to be able to connect with each other one last time, Till and Mizzy both reach for each other, mere seconds away from touching, before Till is shot, and Luca is declared the winner. Right after this, a flashback. Jesus, not even any fucking time to recover from that. As usual, it's from their childhood. Mizzy and Till are both holding their breaths, hiding from a sort of guard bot. The moment continues, with Till obviously flustered by Mizzy's presence, as Mizzy giggles childishly. In the background, notes from a xylophone can be heard, representing Till's fading breath as we flash back to the present, transitioning from Mizzy smiling to her now tear-stained face. The camera then pans to Luca, who's now being forced to face Hyuna. Fuck, man. Oh my god. Why does this series just want you to hate yourself? We start Wiege right where Final left off, with Luca and Hyuna. With Luca obviously excited to see her and trying to get her attention, but Hyuna not seeming to give him a second thought, right before a gun is raised to his head. And this episode's song starts. The first scene of flashbacks that we get is of Luca covered in his own blood, surrounded by seed-shaped pods of himself, most of them being bloody as well, dead and lying limp on the floor. Luca's left arm remains floating above a switch, what we can only assume is the switch that he pulled in an attempt to release these clones of himself. Now, we start to see some of Hyuna and Luca's backstory or history, with Luca in the same field of an act garden. He's sitting by himself, fidgeting mindlessly until he's approached by Hyuna, and we also get a flashback of Hyuna's brother, Hyunwoo. Before this scene continues, however, it flashes back to Hyuna's specific lore, and an explanation of how she lost her leg, the reason why she's now an amputee. We flash back and forth between different moments with Hyuna, with a quick flash of her brother, with blood dripping down his face, before we return back to recent memories, with her and Mizzy arguing after the events of round 5. Pivoting back to Luca, we now start to get more insight on his feelings towards Hyuna, with a scene of him in his room, staring at a wanted poster for her, with the camera panning out to reveal many, many more that he had collected for himself. We then get a brief flashback for... We then get a brief flashback farther in the past, before all of the events of Alien Stage, with the main cast working to create their outfits for their performances. Further back now, we continue to follow Hyuna and Luca, with Hyuna with her back to Luca, crying. Luca obviously trying to figure out what was wrong. We get a flash of a child's drawing of Hyuna, Luca, and Hyunwoo. It quickly cutting to get a clip. Rapping, bro. It quickly cutting to a clip of Hyuna and her brother laughing, before being shown clips from the past again. Kids from Alien Stage and the main cast hanging out with the other kids together. Now, because the series just loves to give you hope before snatching it away, for a good few seconds, things start to look up in these flashbacks. Though Mizzy is still grieving Sua's death, Hyuna is seen obviously happy, and Hyunwoo and Luca are seen laughing together. Mizzy, Sua, Till, Ivan, even Luca and Hyuna, they're all grown up. Happy, thriving, living their lives together, pursuing hobbies. Like the series is taunting what could have been if Alien Stage had never happened. Snap back to reality. Slowly, the cracks start showing through the flashbacks, with another continuation of Luca and Hyuna's connection with each other, with a short frame of Hyunwoo punching who we can only assume is Luca. Back to the present, Luca still has a gun to his temple. He continues to try and reach out to get Hyuna's attention, with Mizzy still actively mourning the loss of yet another one of her friends. And because the knife hasn't been twisted enough, we have another parallel. Parallel counter should really be started for this series, Jesus Christ. Of Luca attempting to walk towards Hyuna, flashing back to the past, again with Hyuna and her brother. Him lying dead while he tries to reach Hyuna. The same thing applying in the present, with Till lying dead behind him. Him trying to reach Hyuna, again. Luca, obviously no longer thinking rationally, because we're in Alien Stage, you can't take last-second decisions like that. But anyways, decides to take the run towards Hyuna, the person who had the gun to his head deciding to shoot. Hyuna, knowing that this would happen, pushes Luca out of her way to take the bullet for him. Then, we cut back to the past. Hyuna and the rebellion, watching the death of one of its members. We continue to get more of Hyuna, seeing her right after she had to get her leg amputated, and mere seconds after watching her brother die at Luca's hand. And another! I need a synonym for parallel at this point. I feel like I'm repeating myself way too much. It cuts back to one of the first flashback scenes that we had. The first time that Hyuna approached Luca, and syncs with the current circumstances. This first hug mirroring their last. This scene is almost directly followed up by Hyuna's gut-wrenching final words, before we pan back to Mizzy, utterly traumatized. This series ends basically the same way it started. A duet between Mizzy and Sua, with us picking up right where we left off in Wiege. We're joining Mizzy and Luca again, but it doesn't take long for Mizzy to snap out of her tears and instead direct all of her emotions towards Luca, pinning him down and punching him over and over and over again, while the crowd of aliens watches and cheers. After a while of this, she picks up Luca by his hair and says, "Stop pretending to be righteous. Neither you nor I deserve to be saved," referring to the fact that everyone who they had to watch die died for someone or something. Sua for Mizzy, Ivan for Till, and now Hyuna for Luca. Considering the comic that came out before Karma, Mizzy is thinking that she's the monster. She's the reason that all of this happened in the first place, so that's why she thinks that she doesn't deserve to be saved, which is why she's projecting this onto Luca. She doesn't know much about him. All she knows him as is the person that got the people that she loved killed. Which is why she's so angry about the fact that he's crying, because she doesn't think that he deserves to when she's the one in pain right now, after watching everyone that she loved die. After Mizzy's finished, she gets up and walks away, with Hyuna's brother replacing where she sat. Perhaps a symbolism for the fact that because of Mizzy's words, Luca is now being forced to confront the one thing that brings him guilt, since she kind of snapped him out of him feeling bad for himself for losing Hyuna. We then follow Mizzy as she walks towards one of the members of the rebellion, Isaac, and after staring at him for a while, I remember when I first watched this with my best friend, I was half scared that she was going to shoot herself. Before we can find out what's going on with that, we get our first flashback of the episode! Mizzy and Sua arguing before the first round. Since Mizzy knew that Sua was planning to let herself die, we can only assume that that was what they were arguing about. Mizzy trying to convince Sua that she didn't have to die for her. As they go back and forth, Sua puts her hand over Mizzy's mouth, silencing her. And once it cuts back to her, she smiles, a flower blooming over her face. Back to the present, Mizzy has shot Isaac. What did he ever do to you, man? So that she can steal his laptop, which has the controls for some kind of rocket. This rocket was set to land a bit further away, but because Mizzy now has access to it, she changes its course to land right where everyone is currently, which, if followed through correctly, would kill everyone in the stadium including her. We're then thrust into another visual of Mizzy looking much, much younger, perhaps how she feels right now internally in such a vulnerable state, with other kids from Alien Stage surrounding her, bright red veins connecting them. Now, since this final episode came out recently, there have been a lot, and I mean a lot, of different fan interpretations of this next sequence, so I'm not by all means stating any of this as fact. This is just what I, personally, think makes the most sense, with an amalgamation of other people's interpretations that I also agree with. First, we're shown 3 very different visuals, all having a heart at the center of them in one way or another, and then some pieces of broken glass, the 2 in the center being in the shape of Ivan and Till, only leaving the viewer to assume that those heart-shaped visuals have to do with their character and dynamic. This is the first of a sequence that was what left most fans theorizing about on Twitter, of Ivan taking out a glass-shaped heart from his mouth and forcing it practically down Till's throat, the both of them biting it and breaking it. But while tears stream down Ivan's face, Till seems completely unbothered, mostly just frantic about the fact that he's being pinned down and possibly choked, which, fair. The next visual like this that we get is now one of Luca and Hyunwoo lying dead and limp around him, with Luca being in the same state of shock that we last saw him in the real-life world. The same heart-bursting effect as the last clip happening again here, but instead, we get to see the aftermath. Luca covered in the black sludge that splattered when Ivan and Till broke Ivan's heart. Then, 3 more visuals of what we can only assume represent Sua and Mizzy's relationship, as the last one shown is Sua upside down as an angel. Then, Mizzy and Sua both upside down, the same heart that we had seen before in each of the others' mouths, broken, as they let the black liquid run down both of their faces. The hearts in the flashback scenes are relevant because of the way that they placed and when exactly they break. When we see Mizzy and Sua's glass hearts, they're both broken, spreading with the black liquid, signifying that their love was mutual. But in Ivan and Till's case, Ivan is obviously being very forceful, confusing Till. But before Till can comprehend what's going on, Ivan breaks his heart or love for Till, just like when he kissed Till in round 6. He showed him his love right before he let himself die. We're then shown another flashback sequence that left many Mizzy Sua fans in a worse state of agony and despair than we already are in most of the time. In a monologue, while these visuals play, Mizzy says, "Hyuna, there's something I needed to confess. She was secretly rehearsing her death every night. And I knew, but pretended not to. Maybe I just wasn't as desperate for her. I know my love was different from yours, but it was love too. Who could really blame me? If you'd seen the look on her face too, you wouldn't be able to judge me either." As this monologue goes on, the visuals change slightly, however. We get to see exactly what Mizzy means, with Sua watching recordings of past Alien Stage participants dying, and Sua giving Mizzy more lines in their song. Both things that she did so that Mizzy would have a better chance of living than her. A lot of visuals begin to flash now, things ranging from sweet moments between Mizzy and Sua, and moments of confusion, high emotion, and hesitation, with one of the most important ones being Sua taking a needle to her neck, preparing to draw blood, and one being of both of them playing with the flowers that had appeared previously, now showing the viewer that those flowers were actually cameras. One of the most heartbreaking frames from this whole episode by far to me is this. Mizzy on the verge of falling off a cliff, and Sua just barely holding onto her by her fingertips. Her hand slowly slipping, causing more and more panic in her eyes. The scene itself, I think, explains the relationship perfectly, and the codependence of it, especially in a place like Alien Stage, where love is basically the only thing that you have to make the world seem not so shitty. Especially considering the fact that they were all brought into Alien Stage when they were practically infants. We then cut to the competition brackets that we were always shown at the end of every round, covered in those same flowers, before it switches back to Mizzy and Sua, in a bathtub together, the both of them getting their blood drawn, another scene that I saw a lot of people talking about and a lot of fan art of. In the present, we get to see that Mizzy's plan in fact did work, and see the effects of it from her point of view. Hundreds and possibly thousands of kids falling together, surrounded by flames, with kid versions of Ivan, Till, Hyuna, and Hyunwoo making an appearance. Oh my god, another parallel! I'm going to start contributing to some statistics after this. After this, we get another monologue from Mizzy, pretty obviously aimed at Hyuna. "You were running away from the very beginning. Not once did you face your real feelings. Did clinging to some noble cause or sense of justice ever really fix anything? But what came of it? A meaningless death. And even if we'd been granted freedom, we'd have still felt alone, because humans are the root of all of this pain. We're creatures who can't seem to love without exploiting." This monologue is what I think really hammers down Mizzy's growing nihilism, which, while painful and sometimes difficult to watch, completely makes sense in her circumstances. Back to the present, we're seeing more of the aftermath of what Mizzy did, almost everything being burned down to the ground, including Luca, apparently. As Mizzy sits there, waiting for the flames to take her as well, she's holding Till's lifeless body. This is something that's really important in my opinion, because it's the first and only time in the entire series that she's able to physically mourn the people that she loves. In every other round that she watches everyone else die, all she could do was stare in shock. When Ivan, Sua, and even Till died, she didn't have the time or space to mourn them, but this time she's giving herself that. But as she pulls his chest against her, she realizes that she can hear his heartbeat. I think personally that this moment has changed the fandom forever, because I don't think that there's any other instance where I've seen more blank characters alive tweets in my life. With this realization, Mizzy walks over to the remaining members of the rebellion, begging them to help her save Till, all while Isaac is just still actively bleeding out from when she kind of shot him 5 minutes ago. But before we get an answer to that question, more flashback time! Returning back to our flashback scene from earlier of Sua practicing for her death, many fans theorize that this didn't actually happen, and that we're actually getting a look inside of Mizzy's mind. We're seeing what Mizzy wished she would have done instead of walking away and acting ignorant. Now, we get a small monologue from Isaac. For humans, and for these beasts too, innocence was a luxury that they couldn't afford. In the endless suffering, to love and to be loved, to hold on to hope for a day that may never come. After this, another montage of various visuals, one being of visuals of each of the main cast's blood, and then another monologue. Is this a survival instinct or selflessness? At the center of it was a woman now called a witch, who was always searching for love. Can we really blame her for that? Now, we're being shown the results of the blood being drawn from just a few seconds ago. Each of the main characters being cloned into almost identical version of themselves. A lot of their features being interchanged. Then, we get a time skip. Multiple screens with a bunch of ads. One of them reading the Alien Stage Tragedy 7th Year Tribute, with another one showing an alien museum that had now been opened. Later, we see Till on a motorcycle with a scar on his neck, infiltrating a group of kids who are being guarded by aliens, giving them directions to an escape route. Because of Till's neck injury, he is now mute, which is why he's communicating the escape route through pictures. Many fans also noted how the only reason that Till knows this escape route enough to draw a detailed version of it is probably because he and Ivan were planning this route when they were younger to escape Alien Stage. Another fact about Till is that he loves singing. Since the moment that he was born, it was one of his favorite things to do. His own mother said this. And now, he won't ever be able to do that again, because he's permanently mute. We then move to the inside of the Alien Stage Museum, with artifacts of clothing, jewelry, and other stuff that the main cast was seen wearing during multiple rounds and scenes. It then zooms in on what we now know is called the replica hall, of all of the clone children that are supposed to represent the main cast. One of the clones looks out the window to see Till driving by on his bike, to which he stops for, taking his helmet off and giving her a smile.
My clematis.
My clematis. My clematis. I'm gonna say my clematis, because if I say my clematis, that's gonna be embarrassing. What, clematis sounds like chlamydia. No, that's so bad. Oh my god. Okay. Because I literally am I feel like I'm saying something I'm not supposed to. Okay. Moving on. The very first song that we get from the series, literally, the first video for the series opens with this song, is a song called My Clematis, a duet sung by Mizzy and Sua. This being a duet between the two of them, they are very obviously singing about each other, with lyrics like Hope Bloom from the Abyss and Always by My Side. Alien Stage representing the black, dark abyss that they're describing, which leaves each other to represent the hope. The word bloomed being used in the song makes a lot of sense, since the song itself is named after a flower that is known to represent beauty. The song continues with them singing about needing each other everywhere in life, no matter what, with the lyrics, even if I sleep in infinity, don't leave my universe. The song then closes and it's matching in visuals. Mizzy singing, Oh My Clematis, Hope withered in the abyss, oh my clematis, please stay by my side, right after Sua dies in front of her eyes. And because Sweet Dream was first introduced in the prologue of Alien Stage, it doesn't actually have a round attached to it, but that doesn't mean that it's not just as potent in terms of pure sadness and despair as the rest of the official songs. The first lyric that sticks out to me are the words, "Even this white dress of mine is dyed red," where Sua references her own white dress turning red from her blood. This phrase specifically being right after the opening line. There aren't any words that I could say anymore now. It has no meaning. Make me think that this song represents Sua speaking from the afterlife. Well, obviously she's dead, but you get what I mean. The whole chorus is a reference to something that is more obvious later in the series. Sua points out the fact that she's always known that she was going to die before Mizzy, that she'd been planning to all along. So her death isn't really something that she regrets. With lines like, "It's happening today," and "Lord, please, when this song is over, come and save me from this, please." The song concludes with a reference to the last song, My Clematis, with Sua saying, "My father, my universe, take away this small and weak me. My father, my universe, the edge of a cliff, that's where I'm standing." A callback to Mizzy's My God, my universe. Unknown, in brackets till the end, is the song that Till sings in round 2 of this series. I could go into every lyric of this song, but almost every lyric is Till describing his love for Mizzy. So, moving on. Black Sorrow is sung by Ivan in the 3rd round. Though the song is directed towards Till, he's singing it against an NPC. The song opens with his resentment towards Alien Stage. Even if we shake our heads, it's always the same place. It then moves onto what the song is obviously about, his feelings towards Till and how helpless he feels in them. "I can't reach you, so I imagine alone. You who shine, I stand next to you." In this song, its title and main lyrics, Black Sorrow, represent the stages that Ivan's love went through when it comes to Till. At first, he was greedy for his love, but as time went on, he started to lose hope with the thought that there was a chance that Till could actually like him back, which is why now he feels not love, but black sorrow. This is our first look of Luca traumatizing the main characters of the series. Ruler of My Heart is a duet between both Luca and Mizzy in round 5. Mizzy having to sing just moments after watching the literal love of her life die right in front of her eyes. Apparently, this song is speculated to either be a song that Luca wrote specifically to sing with Mizzy, or a song that he wrote for Hyuna and just happened to sing with Mizzy. So, I don't want to really make any hard and fast observations on the song because it's all technically objective. Some things that I did notice, though, were some parallels. I swear to God. My savior, beautiful soul, lines up with My God, my universe. The whole second verse could be dedicated just to Sua, specifically her death. And of course, the title, Ruler of My Heart, is probably because of the fact that all of the main ships in this series are slightly toxic. But even though some of them are aware of that, they can't just stop loving each other. They're the rulers of each other's hearts. All In is sung by Hyuna and has its own respective music video, unlike the previous songs, which were all linked to specific rounds. The only way that I can put this song is that it's very Hyuna. Throughout the whole song, she sings about partying and letting loose, saying how she won't let Alien Stage stop her from living her own life however she wants. We only get one life, so I'm living mine for me. Also talking about how proud of herself that she is for staying strong and keeping the rebellion afloat. Every obstacle in my way, I've crushed them all. Step all over me, but I'll rise again. Cure is sung in round 6 by both Till and Ivan as a duet. This song, again, being about their love for each other, or I guess lack thereof. The song opens with Till singing about Mizzy. This is what I meant by lack thereof, saying, "Allow me to the tips of your fingers. Allow me to the ends of your feet." It can be assumed that Till uses allow because he's aware of Mizzy's unreciprocated romantic love. He uses the word on purpose because he doesn't want to force her into doing anything with him that she doesn't want to do. In the next few lines, we get a contrast into Ivan's feelings for Till, with them being obviously more rough, unrepressed, and passionate. "Dissolve me in your gaze, I don't want to let you go. Please, leave me scars. Please, hurt me so that not a single drop of me remains. Let me drown in you." The first chorus gives us our first parallel, until these falling stars are buried in the blur of time, referencing a flashback that we saw earlier of both of them running through a field during a meteor shower. The rest of the song is a lot of repeats and synonyms of comparisons. Basically, Ivan saying anything but "I love you." This song is accompanied by visuals that make the lyrics just that more sad, and the round that the song is sung in ends with Ivan choking Till out, just to hammer the song's theme down even more. Again, just minutes after watching probably one of the most important people in his life die, Till is up to sing again in a duet with Luca. Now, on my first watch of Alien Stage, this was one of my favorite songs. I had it on loop every day for probably a full week, but once my friend made me aware of the, technical meaning of the song, I couldn't listen to it the same. Every time it comes up on my shuffle, I literally have to contemplate if I have it in me to ruin my day or not, because even hearing the first note of this song honestly makes my heart drop. Again, throughout this song, Luca is there as the second singer to mercilessly taunt his victims, with him telling Till to just enjoy the moment, and Till responding with, "Oh, in a blink gone," telling Luca that he cannot physically enjoy the moment because of the nature of Alien Stage. In a blink, everything's gone. All of his loved ones, his childhood friends, the people that knew him the most, and that he knew inside and out. In a blink, they're all gone. And because we love twisting the knife in this series, right as Till is grieving all of his friends throughout the song, his own life ends at the end of the song as well. Just a fun little twist to add in there. Wiege is sung by both Luca and Hyuna, the song getting its own music video, much like All In. The song opens with a Morse code message, which spells out "alive," before drifting into Hyuna and Luca's voice. This whole song goes through Luca, Hyuna, and Hyunwoo's relationship together as a very dysfunctional trio, with lyrics like, "In somewhere in the moment, the lonely moon will dream," "Wings drenched in longing, unfold at last," and "Hush my little child, drift into slumber, in your dreams, you'll run and play in paradise." Nowhere is a song that doesn't have a video visual, but is still just as telling as the rest of the songs. This song, in my opinion, is very obviously about Till. Beginning with the lyrics, "A history stained from beginning to end," following it up with, "This always happens to me," a repeating lyric that could be circling back to his helplessness in songs like Black Sorrow and Kira. The first verse focuses more on Ivan's general regrets, and how he feels like he can't enjoy anything fully because he knows that it could all end at any moment. Blink On is coming back, guys. "I lay down and look at yesterday's dream, all torn up. Fly far, far away. Never, never come back to me, because it's easier to forget." The pre-chorus delves into Ivan's childhood, and how even surrounded by people, he's always felt more alone than the rest of the Alien Stage cast, literally and figuratively. "Close my eyes, in my mind, this painful wound that keeps getting worse, I become more and more numb to it. In the dark city lights, I can't find anyone. Okay, writing this video essay is ruining a lot of aspects of Alien Stage for me. Every time I thought of this song, I thought that the lyrics, "He's smooth, flexible, quite easy," were directed towards Till, but I'm just now finding out from a genius annotation that it's most likely about how Ivan thinks that the aliens see humans, specifically him, saying, "That's just the kind of kid he is, so laugh. Laugh because he can't do anything. No one cares about someone like him." Take My Hand is a song sung by Hyuna, again, not having the music video, as our last song, Karma, is the last one to have one. Since I've been going off of Genius annotations to double check the meanings of these songs, because I don't want to infer something very incorrectly, my interpretations of this song might be a little, or a lot, off. Just from the album cover, we could assume that this song is either about Luca, Hyunwoo, or both, since Hyuna is the main voice. After consulting the full translated lyrics though, I think that this song could only be about Luca, sort of a follow-up to Wiege. Over and over, Hyuna sings Take My Hand, describing different ways in which she's willing to comfort Luca. The lyrics that really sold it for me though were, "I hate you every day, every night. Don't ever say you love me. It's creepy. The truth. When you call my name, it makes me stronger. Meet me at the end of the world." I feel like it has some sort of callback to Live With Love that she left Luca with in Wiege. That's all I could pull from this song. This song is sung by Sua, again, having no visuals to go along with it apart from the album cover, the song being very obviously directed towards Mizzy. The first verse makes a reference to Sua's death in round 1, with her talking about how guilty she still feels about her death. The lyrics written like she's talking directly to Mizzy. "Mine, empty mind, please don't look me in the eye. And now, under that mask of mine, digging into your skin, you don't want to watch what's inside." The chorus strengthens the theme of Sua's wish for death even further, again, referencing round 1. Saying, "I want it to be somewhere, from iron to red drench, somewhere in between the two," with iron to red drench referencing her dress that became drenched in blood after she got shot. Sung by Ivan, the song title itself is already a big hint on its actual contents, it being a combination of the words paradise and parasite, a way of describing the state that Ivan constantly feels like he lives in. I could go through the rest of the song, but it all just goes through Ivan's feelings towards Till, so we're gonna move on. Okay, I originally thought this song was about Ivan, but looking at other sources, people are saying it could also be about Mizzy, and reading other things, I think it makes more sense for it to be about Mizzy. So Take this as you will. We're moving on from Ivan's feelings about Till to Till's feelings about Ivan or Mizzy. I have no clue at this point. This song's title directly translates to My Crazy Life, which honestly is a valid title considering the conditions that all of these people grew up in. I really would like to go through every lyric of the song because this song is one of my favorites from the entire official soundtrack of this series. But literally each and every lyric just builds off the other. So to talk about one, I'd have to talk about the rest of them. One thing that I will say about this song, because I can't talk about this song without mentioning it, is that directly after the second chorus, not so faintly in the background, the xylophone heartbeat from the final round can be heard during the instrumental break before the beat picks back up. I love that. Definitely didn't traumatize me on the first listen, and definitely doesn't traumatize me every time I listen to this. Karma is the last song that we get of Alien Stage, as of making this script. The album cover of the song is an illustration of a younger version of Mizzy and Sua holding hands while they float down into the inferno that we saw Mizzy cause in the music video for this song. The intro of this song enters with the repetition of me together with you, and you with me and we, obviously talking about their love for each other. Mizzy and Sua both take turns singing, basically repeating the same things in a different font. I really thought that I'd have more of a climactic moment with this song since it's the last one that I'm going to be talking about, but there really aren't many lyrics to this song. Most of it is instrumental, though it is also one of my favorite songs from the series. The first comic that I'm going to be covering is Cheer Up, which shocked me to my core when I first read it because I went back to the first comic ever posted to read them all in order for this video, and this was my first impression. Yeah, so the symbolic flower is back, and it's carried through the entire comic, with it starting with Ivan and Till huddled around it, trying to revive it by telling it to cheer up. Just a few panels later, who we can only assume to be Mizzy, asks what they're doing, her entrance very obviously scaring Till. But once Ivan asks Till what a loser is, since that's what she calls the both of them, he responds, "You idiot, it means an idiot without friends." To which Ivan responds, "That's you then." From that, Ivan gets very validly punched in the face by Till, who then runs off to go find Mizzy. While Ivan sat there on the grass, feeling his forehead for the damage that Till caused, he picks the flower back up, repeating the same cheer up, cheer up, cheer up from before. When I first read this, the message in it was pretty obvious to me, which is what shocked me even more than I already was. Ivan, staring at his heart, his love for Till, and willing himself to cheer up. To not let Till's defiance towards him get to him, because deep down, he wanted to keep believing that he still loved him the way that he loved Till. In the comic On Stage, we get a snippet of backstory between Hyuna, Luca, and Hyunwoo. While in an act garden, Luca asks Hyuna if she likes music, and when she responds yes, without a specific reason, Luca responds saying that he loves music because it's one of the only moments in Alien Stage where he feels like he has full control and autonomy. This specifically explains a lot about what could have contributed to why Luca did what he did during the past rounds that we looked at. The way he chose to tease and manipulate instead of playing along with the competition, something that none of the other contestants did, and how even when he got literally beat up for it multiple times, all he did was smile until the same thing he teased others for happened to him. He wasn't smirking because he was genuinely happy to be pushed around, but because all of this, no matter the cause and effect, gave him a sense of control over his situation. If he was being beat up, if someone else in Alien Stage hated him, or loved him, or whatever, at least he had been the one that made that happen. This beautiful lore drop is instantly interrupted by Hyunwoo finding a giant bug and yelling for Hyuna to come look at it. We still love him though. Next up, Ivan blatantly projecting onto Sua. He literally starts the comic by saying, "When I see you, I feel relieved." So it's not just me who's been this twisted. Then here comes the projection! He then goes on to say that Sua should feel guilty for the fact that she's planning to sacrifice herself for Mizzy, and that all she's doing is passing everything she doesn't like onto another person and running away without a care in the world. So, like, Ivan buddy, I see where you're coming from. But, like, surely you understand that it's more nuanced than that, right? Right? Nope, he just keeps going, doesn't he? It's also to be noted that during this whole interaction, Sua's collar is shining bright red, while Ivan doesn't have his on. so it's kind of hard to tell how exactly he's feeling in this, but I could only assume that this happened during a particularly rough patch with Till, since it's been very obviously shown to us that their relationship was very unstable. Even though Ivan is brutal and Sua is very undeserving of taking any of this type of shit from anyone, considering things like Ivan's background and real personality, I say real here as in not the way he learned how to act while he was growing up, it does make a lot of sense. Also, from Ivan's point of view, I can see the point that he's trying to make, as someone noted in the replies of this translation. The reality of the last comic gets even more apparent in our next one, Confession. We get a look inside of Ivan's mind directly after what he had just said to Mizzy, saying how he wanted to believe that they were in the same situation, him with Till and Sua with Mizzy. But slowly but surely, he realized that Mizzy's love was reciprocated towards her, but Till's wasn't towards him. Even though, in his eyes, they were basically the same person in a different font. He was alone in how he felt right now. Still, he tries to feel better or comfort himself by telling Till that at least Till's never going to care about him like he cares about Till. Like he's trying to convince himself that this has been his strategy in Alien Stage all along. Don't get too close to anyone, or don't let anyone get too close to you, and if and when something bad happens to them, it won't affect you as much. The comic ends with probably one of the most repeated phrases that I've ever seen in this entire fandom. Thank you for being the victim of my shallow emotions. That's some shit that you get tattooed, man. Oh my god. Again, more unreciprocated Ivan Till. From the title of this comic, you can already entail what this is going to be about. I hope. Please? Yeah, Till is clearly not into this. I wonder if anything happened on his birthday. Nothing really important happens in this comic. I just thought it was funny because I always saw people making the point that Till is probably bisexual, and I feel like this could be an allegory for that. Moving on, this comic is quite traumatizing actually. I was shocked reading this. This comic starts with Sua's older sister. I'm gonna say Uni, but I don't know. I just went to Google Translate and it said something really weird. So, Uni, talking to her about going to Alien Stage, and how she's afraid that because of her naivety, she's going to go pop and die. I don't know, I feel like maybe you shouldn't say that to a kid that young. Or just kids at all. Because Sua was so young, obviously hearing this, especially from someone like her sister, affected her. But she goes on to say that this place isn't hell like her sister said. It's quite the opposite actually. All because of Mizzy, or the pink-haired girl, that she called her in one of the first panels. Immediately followed by some dashing imagery of Sua's death, leading more into the fact that she never minded dying, because it meant that she was dying for Mizzy. From the start, she knew that she would do anything for the pink-haired girl, which is why she called her time in Alien Stage, and even her death, heavenly. In this comic, we get more lore from Till, specifically his mother. Again, I don't know, I really don't want to confidently pronounce someone's name wrong, but I think it's Io. There's probably, I don't know. I really don't know. I'm gonna say Io. Or provider, as the aliens call them. It's not blatantly stated, but I'm assuming that because of their nicknames, their providers are meant to provide children for the aliens. And so, in this case, Till is Io's creation, which is what she calls him throughout the whole comic. Even though the comic starts sweet, it slowly gets darker as Io starts to share her doubts and worries that started to grow as she realized that she began to care more for Till, and once he was old enough to properly communicate, not only how much he loved singing, but how good he was at it. She was terrified for him, because she knew everything about Alien Stage. Literally. She had seen contestants upon contestants die in Alien Stage firsthand, and she knew that with Till's talent, he would be next. Even though she knew this though, she knew that she couldn't stop it. So all she did was wish the best for him, hoping that he would remember to chase after the love that he had given, so that one day, that love would be reciprocated. Eventually though, no matter how much of an attachment both Io and Till had created to each other, they had to be separated. She was only a provider after all, and he was only the creation. This comic ends very bittersweet, with the narrator saying how even though Io was never there to see it, the way she raised him had left a mark on him, and allowed him to live with love. Oh, did my own parallel there. This comic is pretty short compared to the others, and is basically just a reenactment of the monologue that we get from Hyuna in Wiege, but with a bit more backstory, internal thought, and a sad-ass fucking metaphor. Holy shit! The last comic that I'm going to be talking about is The Witch's Decision, something that I noticed divided a lot of the fandom, especially with it coming out after Karma. The majority of the comic is of a conversation between Mizzy and Hyuna, talking about the main plan that the rebellion had been working towards to free everyone who was still trapped in Alien Stage. In this conversation, it is very obvious how opposing Mizzy and Hyuna's personalities are, where their morals stand, and how they cope with certain situations. Hyuna is thinking in terms of efficiency, trying to get the least amount of people hurt in the shortest amount of time, while also being realistic in the fact that this is alien stage, and things will happen like death and hurt feelings that they cannot control. That sometimes they couldn't have done anything to stop it, which is exactly why you have to learn how to move past them. Even if it hurts, messy feelings will only slow everything down. While Mizzy, on the other hand, is thinking almost completely in terms of emotion. She's trying to understand and take in Hyuna's perspective, but she just can't not think of the ones that they've lost, especially when it's so many, and especially when they were like family to her. She mentions that she doesn't think that it makes sense that all of these people she loves had to die in order for them to live and save everyone else, and the fact that it's downright unfair that she doesn't get to mourn, ending the conversation with cursing the concept of love in its entirety. Because maybe if she never grew any attachment to any of these people, she'd be able to hold the same mentality that Hyuna has. The comic ends tying everything together, and how the emotions that Mizzy so desperately wants to be able to ignore, but can't, is exactly what led to the events of karma, which, in effect, has now led to her being possibly forever outcast as the witch. Because in this world, you will always be punished for being human. Alien Stage truly is probably now one of my favorite series of all time, especially as a writer. Like, it balances character and plot and world building so well, and the music just feels like a bonus. I'm also aware that in terms of the age of content, I guess you would call it, I am fairly new to this fandom, so if I ended up getting anything wrong, or honestly, if there's just a piece of lore that you feel like sharing, I'd love to read them in the comments. And of course, go support both Vivianos and Kyumeg on all their socials. I'll link anything that I can find of them in the description.